So I did a podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole. It was a conspiracy podcast with my buddy Tim, and I were the truth seekers. And then we had a third co-host who was a comedian who tried to turn everything into a fart joke. So it was a very interesting dynamic. And we dug into all of the deceptions of the world. I don't know how familiar you guys with, how many lies are in the news and how many of the big events that we hear of are just not real.
Yes.
And then in the third year, people started sending me flat earth stuff. And they're like, hey, Dave, have you looked into the flat earth? And I would delete. And they'd say, hey, watch this video. And I would delete. And then if they do it again, I'd ban them from our social media because flat earth, it's ridiculous. We all know the earth is a ball. We've known it for 500 years. Ships go over the horizon, seasons, sunsets. It's not even worth my time. And then I was speaking with Sophia Smallstorm, another researcher, and I was just amazed at this crazy event that was happening in the news that was not real. And I said, there's so much deception in this world. And she goes, oh, David, it's worse than that. I think the earth might be flat. And I was just like, not you too. And she goes, here, watch these videos. And she sent me a couple videos to watch. And I said, all right. And I went in with a closed mind. I'm going to disprove flat earth and I'm going to prove the globe. Mm-hmm. And that's how you become a flat earther. Yeah. When you actually take a look at the evidence, because people that believe in the globe have two things in common. One, they have no idea what their globe model is. They really don't know all of the things about the globe. And two is they think the flat earth is something it's completely not, because they Googled flat earth and they ended up, with images like this of a disc floating in space, or is the earth flat? This picture comes up, all these round planets and a flat disc, or all flat planets. Okay. Nobody believes that. Yeah. That's disinformation to control your mind and to make you, like it did me, never look at flat earth. Mm-hmm. But once you start looking and find out what it really is and what the ball really is supposed to be, then you're just like, how did I ever believe in the ball model?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, so that's the thing, because my thing is when going into flat earth, I was always like, well, I obviously think that that's far-fetched, the whole it just being a disc and being flat. I saw it more as like, if anything, bowl shaped. You know what I mean? Like more of like a bowl in a way.
Well, that you would understand, and you know what? It is a little bit like a bowl. Let's talk about what. Let me explain. So we're told that the Earth is a globe, and at the bottom of the globe is a continent called Antarctica, and it's 13,000 miles around. Mm-hmm. And everybody just has that core belief. Okay. But you don't see any, satellite images of Antarctica. You get some stuff at the edge, but the entire middle is just a cartoon. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, why, and then the reason is, well, satellites don't orbit the Earth that way. Okay. Whatever. But flat Earth is this. Think of a massive Earth frozen plain. The basement of the universe is the way I describe it. And we live in the Antarctic basin. So think about what a puddle is. A puddle is where water accumulates at the low spot in the land, and the edge of the puddle is where the land is just higher than the water, right? Very simple.
Sure.
A pond is a bigger puddle. A lake is a bigger pond. And think of the world oceans as a giant lake. And the land that surrounds it, that holds this lake in, that is the land that we call Antarctica. So in this giant lake, we have islands, which we'll call them the continents, and the shoreline of the lake is Antarctica. And Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. They don't teach you that in school. If you take a boat to Antarctica, the plateau is 200 feet over your head. Okay, when you get to Antarctica, it's the highest land on Earth. So we live in the Antarctic basin. People go, well, show me the ice wall. There's no pictures of the ice wall. There's a million pictures of the ice wall. There's the countless pictures of the ice wall. And it's not a wall like the Game of Thrones, another mind control thing, right? They have you believing that that's a wall and you could piss off the end of the Earth. Well, you can't. It's just the shoreline. So what's out there? What's out south, right? What's out there? And that's off limits to all people. You and I can't go there. No corporation could go there. Since 1957, there's been a treaty, and no one can even question the treaty until the year 2041.
Oh, wow. I know that. I did see that, I forget how many, it was more recent years that people like Mitt Romney and I forget who else, they were going there.
John Kerry
Yeah, that's who it was. John Kerry. Not
On election day, he went there.
That's right. What do you think that's all about?
Antarctica is the source, is the key to knowing that you don't live on a ball. That's why it's off limits. And perhaps the people that pull the puppet strings of all the puppets that we call the elite, maybe they live in the lands beyond Antarctica. Maybe, you know, beyond the shoreline of Antarctica, this is our world, and maybe there's other worlds out here with its own sun. Okay. And there's some stories that, you know, about the Iron Republic, about I think it was a senator that really got tired of politics in New York in the early 1800s or maybe 1900s, you know, long time, but not that long ago, but long ago. And he went to Antarctica and he found what he calls a summer gate, and he went through this fissure in Antarctica, and then they were lost at sea. They didn't know where they were. They were in this big sea for like a month, and then they came across this land. And as they approached the land, a boat came out, and people spoke English. And they're like, where is this place? They're like, this is the Iron Republic. And they're like, where's the Iron Republic? You know, we're from the United States. And he goes, the Iron Republic is on the other side of Antarctica, about the same distance that you are from the ice.
Right. I've heard, so there's supposed to be a civilization or a community outside of the wall, right?
Well,
or beyond.
Yeah, and the story is that they lived here in the 1600s, but there was tyranny going on. Imagine tyranny going on in this inner world. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I mean, welcome to 2021.
Right.
And they didn't like it, so they left and they went to the outer lands, right? And so there's this more technologically advanced civilization living out there. Now, again, how can we prove this? We can't. Okay, there's just some credible stories about it, and a lot of it makes sense.
Well, you know, people do believe, you know, we're on a ball with water sucking to it and all that. I mean, how could that not be? A lot of my thing with any of this information, which is why I find it most fascinating how people choose a paradigm and they live by it, is even if you were to go with mainstream science, right, and you're talking about a globe flying through 40,000, 50,000 miles in the middle of nowhere, right? And it's a ball of water and it's revolving around a ball of fire. If you don't find that to be extremely fascinating or out of this world, or, you know, very weird, you know, in that science in itself, even the mainstream is something that would be unbelievable to people. The fact that, you know, when they first
trying to turn me into a flat earther.
I might be.
Just making sure you are.
Just
I
making
think
sure.
you're trying to turn me into a flat earther, because that sounds crazy. You know, I'm going to say some crazy stuff and some stuff that makes sense. And the crazy stuff is what I'm trying to explain this nonsense, right? Let's just look at these motions. We're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That's faster than the speed of sound. So when on a heliocentric model, when you go to the beach and watch the sunset, you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound. And that's making the sun appear to set. Okay. You're falling at like 5 miles a minute around a curve. I mean, it's some crazy number, right? Because you have to go all the way around 24,000 miles. So you're falling. While you're doing that, you're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. Interesting number. And you're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles an hour. And that system's moving sideways at 1 or 2 million miles an hour.
Right.
Okay. There's different arguments, whether it's 1 million, whether it's 1.2, whether it's 2.2. What difference does it make at this point?
It's just fast, right?
It's nonsense. And then all of the other planets are interesting. The sun is flying at 500,000 miles an hour, and we're going around the sun, and all the other planets are staying on the same plane. And as it's going, they're staying on the same plane, chasing the sun. They're not going like this, you know, like you would expect.
Right.
They're just all staying on that same plane. And that's because everything we see in the sky is within the Earth system, going over the Earth plane. So that's why they all look like they're on the same plane, because they're over the Earth plane. Planets are not planets. Planets are not terra firma. They're not other worlds. They're wandering stars. They're energetic. They're probably not even physical. So all of that, you know, all of that's going on, and I'm able to go to the beach and build this. Okay. Right. You know, all of that's going on. We're told that because of the spin of the Earth, the water bulges at the equator 14 miles high. This is what science tells us. 14 miles high. So if you're flying from the north to the south, your cruising altitude is like 5 miles. At what point do you climb that extra 10 miles just to skim over the top of the water, right? 14 miles high.
It would catch up if you're projecting.
You're cruising. You have to get over this hump that's
Right.
14 miles high. That's taller than Everest. Okay, so that makes absolutely no sense. And while that's going, you know, we have lakes that look like this, right? Why isn't that water sloshing if the water at the equator is sloshing, right?
Wouldn't be still.
It makes absolutely zero sense that this could exist with any of those motions.
Sure.
Now, where does like the whole, you know, core of the earth and the layers of the earth come into play with the whole flat earth theory?
So when you say the core of the earth, what the image that pops in your mind is that picture of the earth with a quarter of it taken out and showing all of the layers. Okay. That's a heliocentric meme that has zero science behind it. It's just a painting. So this is what happens. The deepest hole ever dug is the Great Borehole in Russia, and they just got short of 8 miles, and they hit an impenetrable barrier. They couldn't drill through it. They couldn't blow it up. They couldn't do anything. And while they were drilling down this hole, they were using ground penetrating radar. They were like, okay, there's no more water. And then all of a sudden they hit water, and they're like, okay, there's no more boulders. Then they hit boulders, right? So they were wrong every step of the way. So equate that to an apple. If the apple was the earth, they got halfway through the skin. While they're predicting what they're going to hit through the skin, they were wrong every step of the way. They hit an impenetrable barrier before they even got through the skin, but somehow they know what's in the center of the earth. Okay?
Yeah, there's a lot of fish, and no, I definitely know that we're not being told a lot of things. So you know, that's why we could see and we could stay open-minded to this.
Right, and you know, I do have a question. So there is the duality of the wave-particle theory, right, and quantum physics. Could potentially the plane of the Earth be more of a waveform in a sense where it's more of a holographic, where our minds are quantum machines and our perception of it can make it as if one or the other can be true. So if I believe in my reality that the Earth is round, and I gravitate towards all those facts, and I find the things that make it solid proof in my reality, right? Could that potentially be at the same time approaching a 5D Earth in the age of Aquarius? Could that be kind of a new concept coming in, that our perception of it can attract certain facts?
Are you saying that like maybe we're in a simulation?
Well, I guess you could say that. I mean, there's many ways to put it. More like holographically, yes. Like we're all co-creating this reality, and we're on this.
I believe that we are co-creating this reality. Our thoughts create this reality. We're going to get into that in a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
So our thoughts create, you know, our world, and that's one of the things that they're hiding from us. Now, are we in some sort of simulation? Are there NPCs, you know, non-player character people that are around us? Sure seems that way.
Oh yeah.
But you know, if one of you punched each other really hard, it's hard to like, wow, maybe this place is physical. I don't know what I don't know what this is. I think I always think of it as we're in some sort of toroidal field with a flat plane of existence inside of it. Take it beyond that, you know, that's all speculation. And I think that this world is a physical place, whatever physical means, because, you know, it's all energy. So whatever that means, that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think physical just ends up being just a certain frequency that things are vibrating at, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, the Earth has a resonance to it, the Schumann resonance, and you know, and there's free energy everywhere. You know, you can measure it. The Earth has a negative electric charge to it, and every meter you get off the ground is 100 volts difference. Okay, 2 meters, it's 200 volts. 3 meters, it's 300 volts, and that energy can be extracted out of the air. But they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know about unlimited water, unlimited free energy, because then you wouldn't need them. Oh, and maybe unlimited places to live, right? People would be bailing out of here so fast and starting their own countries, and you know,
they have all the reason in the world to be hiding this from us, because it definitely puts us it takes our power away, which would make sense.
If you are lost in space, spinning out of control, that you think you're insignificant, you're a random accident of a lightning strike that turned into an amoeba, that turned into a monkey, that turned into a human, that you know, your life means nothing, that you're in a godless or distant God universe, you're lost and you've given away your power and you're living in fear. And then the people that we accept as our controllers, lawfully, or they're allowed to take our power because we're giving it to them. But if you understand that you're in the center of creation and that you have, no one has dominion over you, and that you have great power, and that we're here in the center of creation, and we are co-creating beings, you kind of take your power back. You kind of unplug from the matrix. You kind of figure out who you are, and you align with your soul, and you take your power back. It's that, I mean, that's that reason. And along with thinking that, you know, if you're on a planet, you're in a prison. That's it. There's no more to discover, Truman. Everything's been discovered, you know, from the Truman Show. Yeah. So if you knew there was more, there's free energy. They've taken away airships from us. Airships used to cruise all over the world in the 1800s and early 1900s, but they've taken that away from us because that kind of doesn't need energy. We could go explore Antarctica with that, or the North Pole. So they've literally locked us down. There was some sort of reset that happened in late 1800s, I think, early 1900s, and the people that knew it was coming or that survived it, really they limited, you know, they took over our minds. They with government control the mind. Govern the ment is the mind, and govern is control the mind.
What would in your research, what would you think, like, why would they want that, and who would be they in a sense? Because I have plenty of theories on this, and I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah, well, it's the royal families, that protect their bloodlines. They look at themselves as a different species. They look at us as useless cattle, useless eaters, and they have. I think because when they keep their bloodlines pure, excuse me, when they keep their bloodlines pure, they might have some sort of genetic memory. So when they die and they're reborn, they kind of know it, because they're not diluting themselves. That's another rabbit hole.
Oh, it is.
Go down.
It is. That's why it's not that we have to dive fully in, but I wanted to hear what you had to say.
Yeah. So the people like the Rothschilds and the royal family and those, we know that they're in control, but their strings are being pulled by puppets that may be living in other lands that we're unaware of.
Yeah. Well, that concept, that whole concept about like there being other, how did you put it? Like other sorts of barriers outside the Arctic wall, right?
Yeah.
And like other lands outside that. It kind of goes like, it sounds very familiar with the whole Vedic teaching of the whole tree of life thing, and like how kind of like these lands emerged and kind of kept pushing outwards and outwards, and it was like newer civilization, and then on the outside is the more pre-existing civilizations. Right. So I always thought that was interesting too. But the thing is though, it's like with the flat earth concept, I know a big argument towards it is like, okay, well, how come then, when you're say towards the North Pole, right, on a round earth, right, you're at the North Pole and you see a certain amount of star systems, but you can't see other ones. But then as you're going down, you start seeing newer ones and stuff. If you're on a flat earth, why can't you see all of them?
I will explain that perfectly. So you've been, and I'm not picking on you because it was me too. It's everybody. You've been told that that's the reason you see different stars, and you never thought, well, is there another way to see different stars? So imagine we're in a big empty room, 10-foot high ceilings. It's got random recessed lights in it. Those are the stars. Okay. Now I'm going to expand that room to 10 miles wide. I'm going to send you 7 miles that way. Okay. So I'm near the center of the room. So I'm like right here. And I send you over here to the southern part of the room, 7 miles away. Well, 7 miles, a 10-foot high ceiling merges with the floor, and you can't see anything. I will not be able to see you unless I had a zoom camera and could zoom in. And when we both look up, we're looking at different lights.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's without any atmosphere blocking as perspective pushes everything together. It's very simple once you see it.
So with a lot of Einstein's work and gravity and all that, that would be considered then a psyop? Or because my question too with a lot, and I know a lot of people probably have this question. So they have all these scientists, and you have all these, say, even with the flight, with the people flying planes and all that. how could they have manipulated the minds of modern day scientists and pilots and stuff like that, and them not realize that what they've learned isn't, the correct model? If we're talking even
there's lots of pilots that know, and lots of pilots that don't know. They get up in their plane and they follow their instructions and their GPS, and they think the Earth is so big that they can't really see the curve. But then they look out their curved windows and like, I think I see a little curve. And that's just because we see in a circle, we see, the same distance in all directions. So that's a circle, and our brain tells us it's a sphere, but it's not. And, the horizon always rises to eye level, no matter how high you are, until the point where you can't see anymore and it's obscured. But there's plenty of pilots, and we have a lot of the Qantas pilots. They know the most because their flight routes make no sense on a ball Earth, but they say that they talk about it openly amongst themselves because they can't talk about it publicly because they lose their jobs if they do. And we had a KLM pilot do a show with us. She's like, yeah, it's flat, and I've taken this trip, and I see the sun over here and the moon over here. There's pilots taking pictures, videos of the sun and the moon, and documenting where they are, that are releasing these stuff, but they don't want to come out publicly. The KLM pilot got fired the next day, okay, after talking to us. So again, let's look at this route. So on a ball, the tip of Santiago and Australia are really close together. They're just on the opposite sides of Antarctica, okay? But why doesn't a plane just fly over Antarctica and go over here? Why doesn't it go just like this? Boom, just right over here. Or you don't want to go over Antarctica, just go hang out at 55 degrees south or whatever that latitude is. And that's the shortest route. But instead, they go all the way up here, all the way over, and then all the way down. And if they want to go to Eastern Australia, check this out. They go all the way up here, they fly all the way over to Europe or Dubai, and then they go all the way down. On a flat Earth, it looks like this. That's the same route as we see over here. And if I want to go to Eastern Australia, check this out. Straight line. California, New York, Dubai, Eastern Australia. Airplanes fly straight and level over an Earth plane. Now, there are some direct flights that maybe do take the outer route around they go around here, okay? But there's these planes are specific planes only flown by a couple of military pilots. The planes have like 7 layers of heat resistant paint, we found out. So what does that tell you? It's flying a little faster than they're telling us. The sound barrier is not a barrier. Okay. So if that plane's flying 700 miles an hour, it goes to 45,000 feet where there's a 200 mile an hour tailwind. Well, there's that makes the flight times for this amount of distance very, very possible.
Yeah, and I always found it interesting too with the speed of flights and then the speed of the Earth spinning. You'd say 1,100 miles an hour, the Earth spinning.
1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
Okay.
So check this out. If I pulled a string around the equator here, it's 24,901 miles around. Okay. Right. So if I held a Sharpie on there and it drew a line, that line is a big circle. But if I held a Sharpie a mile from the North Pole at the top, it's going to draw a little circle, right? It's going to draw a circle with a string this big versus a circle with a string this big, right? So if you're on a runway 1 mile from the North Pole, you still go around once a day, once every 24 hours, but the amount of distance you're going to travel is 3.14 miles because you're a mile from the North Pole. The way you figure out the radius is times pi. So it's 3.14 miles. So you're going 0.13 miles per hour. Okay. While you're just sitting on the ground, 0.13 miles per hour, 24 hours is 3.14 miles. You with me?
Yep.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
And if I'm sitting on the ground here on the equator, I'm moving 1,000 miles per hour because I have to go 24,000 miles to go all the way around. You right?
Yeah. Right.
So you're sitting in a plane a mile from the North Pole. It's on the runway. It's getting ready to take off. It takes off. It speeds up to 500 miles an hour and it flies to Ecuador where it's trying to land on a runway that's north-south orientation. That runway is going sideways at 1,000 miles an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
How the
Okay. Yeah,
frig?
I knew I thought about the centrifugal force, that if you're on the equator, shouldn't be the gravity be different from the top? And then
Right. And some people say it is, but they're lying. It's like people say that toilets spin backwards in Australia. That's a myth also.
I was just saying that too.
yeah, because I'm huge on Santos Bonacci and all his work. So yeah,
Santos is amazing, and he takes this to the next level. The 7 layers of the earth. I'm all about it. I believe there's a heavenly realm right above us, very close. Maybe where the clouds are is heaven. Okay. And non-physical water beings are up there. You know, we're water beings, but physical water beings. Maybe there's denser ones below us.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Water holds information. You know, I don't know, what the hell are clouds? It's certainly not what's producing the amount of rain we get. I mean, you fly through a cloud and the plane barely gets wet.
Oh, yeah, makes sense. Yeah, that guy has inspired me completely. He's one of the biggest reasons why, I mean, me personally have gotten into it. Him and there's a fellow that you must know who this guy is. His name's Achintya. He's if you've ever seen Crossing Over 2012, there was a documentary with Santos and a bunch of other people, and it was more so about the astrology and the ages. But Achintya is a guy. He actually had he sells a map, and I started following him too. And he's humongous on. He's a good buddies with Santos, and he's like the flat Earth buddy of Santos. But I think he studies a lot of the Vedic knowledge. And in a few weeks, I think we're having him on here too. And just to get all these perspectives, I mean, look, I'm not going to distrust Santos with the amount of information that guy has brought, and he's so intelligent.
Santos knows the Earth is flat. He just has he adds a lot more to it than I'm going with the basics here.
Oh no,
it's showing you that we don't.
We're still kind of basic on this, which is why we're excited to have this, because it's something that's like almost like we've dipped our toes in, but that's why we can't give you an answer on what we believe, because we can't prove either or. So
that's fine. Anyone that says, I don't know, you're already done. As I said before the show, people like, no, of course it's a ball, you moron. Like I just did the Anthony Cumia show. He's a moron. He can only yell, regurgitate indoctrinated nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay. And he won't listen. You guys are like, there's a problem with the ball. Let me look at this. The more you look at it, the more you're going to realize that we don't live on a spinning ball.
Well, you know what? We've been lied about so many things, including from what religions have told. Well, like, the way that everything's portrayed from government to religion, we're lied to about everything. Why wouldn't I? Why would I just lay down and accept this as well? Once I found out Santa Claus wasn't real.
What?
Well, there isn't no North Pole, is there?
Or is he sitting at the center?
Yeah, we gotta work on this then, huh? I mean, the globe.
I had like 2 kids here that just started crying uncontrollably.
that would have been terrible.
Don't listen to these guys. These guys fucking.
Just kidding. We're not talking about that.
Well, that was my heartbreaking moment when I was a kid, where I realized something. We realized something had to be questioned.
Was it that Santa Claus didn't exist, or that your parents lied to you?
That I was lied to. It wasn't really about the existence, but more so.
There's 2 sides to that, though.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I feel like it's important, though, to like even have these discussions. Like you're going to get people that are just very closed-minded, and even with some of the other things that we discuss, like, and we know that. But that's why our approach to it is to basically be able to put down those biases, put down those belief paradigms that first of all, understand where some of these belief paradigms are coming from, that they come from birth, that they're kind of just put onto you. And when you put those down a little bit and you allow other information to come in, you could start having answers to certain questions that you thought you couldn't get answers to.
Right.
It's weird how it kind of just comes to you as well.
Yeah.
So do you guys understand how circumnavigation works on a flat Earth?
I would like to hear more about this.
So at the center of the flat Earth is the magnetic north. And if you put a compass down, it points to the north. So if you try to dead reckon east, you have to go in a circle because you need that compass to constantly point to the center. So you're following a compass, you're just keeping it dead reckon east, you're going in a circle. Okay? And that circle is so big. If you were on a racetrack that was 200 miles around, you would think you were driving in a straight line. You wouldn't realize that you're turning. So when you dead reckon east or west, you are going a circle around the magnetic north. If you try to go straight, watch the compass, all of a sudden you're going south. The compass should turn a little bit more. The magnet's not strong enough, but he's heading south now. Every straight line becomes south on flat Earth.
Oh.
Okay, so you can leave New York and just go east, or here's New York, right? It's backwards for me. This is the West Coast. I can head 270 degrees and go all the way around and come right back to where I started from. And I think I went in a straight line, but I really just went around a circle. That works on a flat Earth and a ball Earth the same. On a ball Earth, you have to keep turning left when you're heading east, or you have to keep turning right when you're heading west, in the northern hemisphere. And it's the same on a flat Earth. In the southern hemisphere on a ball Earth, you'd have to turn the other way. You'd have to correct to the south. But we've talked to Navy ship captains and cargo people that were in the southern oceans trying to dead reckon east or west, and they had to constantly keep turning to the north to reset their compass. And they're like, is it currents? Is there something wrong with the rudder? And then they said when they came back the other way, they still had to turn to the north and not to the south. On a ball, you'd have to turn to the south. So that heavily leans to the Earth being flat. Nobody has ever circumnavigated from Santiago and popped up over in Australia like you should be able to on a ball. Yeah. No one's ever done it, right?
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. It totally makes sense. I mean, the whole map thing always has made sense to me. I saw a few people try and debunk the whole flight travel, the pets, that some flights do go this way, and that they even brought up
some do, but the problem with flights is you can't if the air control put a craft with up at a certain level where they had a 200-mile-an-hour tailwind, and the craft went faster than they even knew, how would they know? Pilots would never know. The passengers would never know. Whether you're going 800 miles an hour, 1,000 miles an hour at that height, there's no way for you to know. You're above clouds. You can't really see the land so far away. It's barely moving. And check this out. This is the Guinness Book of World Records for circumnavigation. Here's the North Pole. They came down, Santiago. They went to Antarctica. Then they turned around and went back to Santiago. Then they went out to this island, out here. Does that look like circumnavigating a globe? They won the first southern north circumnavigation. That's south-north circumnavigation. This is all they did. This is it. They just went around here, okay? And they went. Circumnavigation is going from the tip of Santiago and popping up over here. Okay? That would be southern circumnavigation. No one's ever done it. They've faked it like this. That should tell you something.
Like the moon landing?
It should tell you something.
Yeah. That's crazy. There's so much to be able to explore with it. Like that's the other thing too, because now with flat Earth, is it rotating? Is it stationary? Like
the flat Earth does not move, and everything that we see in the sky is circling around us. Let me share my app with you guys. You guys know about my app?
No.
I might know. I have a flat Earth map.
So no, this is called the Flat Earth Sun Moon Zodiac Clock.
This is yours? This is your app?
This is my app.
I was listening to Mark Sargent, and he had promoted this. He had said to
he promotes it with it. I got to give him some new copy. It's getting kind of old.
Yeah, well, I do have this. Yes.
All right. So yeah, thank you. So it's a great tool for understanding how it works. So let me just show you how the sky clock works, right? The sun goes around once every 24 hours. The sun keeps track of the hours and the days, right? Makes sense. That's why they gave us a clock that goes around twice. They're like, hey, let's give them clocks, but we'll make it go around twice so they never figure out that it's really a sky clock. So wherever the sun is, it's noon, and the sun will lap the moon once every 28 days. So when it's opposed, it's a full moon, and now the moon is going to wane. So the moon, its position and phases are a way to keep track of the weeks and the months, or the months, right? Yep. So I'm going to slow it down, and I'm going to, wrong thing. If I turn on the zodiac, so the stars are going slightly faster than the sun. So they lap the sun once a year. So the sun is moving into this zodiac here, and 30 days later, it'll be in Pisces, and 30 days later, it'll be here. And it'll show you, you know, it keeps track of the seasons and the years. And then, like, if you go out tonight and look at the stars in the sky, go out the same time next year, same night, every star will be in the exact same position, right? In the helio nonsensical, spiraling, twirling, whirling, infinite space system, that makes zero sense at all. But in the app, if you hit the question mark, up come every question that anyone asks, you know, like, you know, what about Coriolis? Or what about southern star rotation? Or as we were talking about, southern flights? Or
And that's like my whole paper right here, man. I think.
Yeah, why the lie?
You know,
And if you click anyone, like I'll click why the lie, up comes a playlist of videos that YouTube won't serve you.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
yeah, so like if you said, "Hey Dave, send me something on the moon landing," and, you know, like, are all pilots and scientists in, or no, are all space agencies in on it? If I sent you one video, the next video that YouTube would serve you is a propaganda video. Okay. But if I send it to you in the app and you watch the first video, all these videos will play. And then you'll learn all about how all of the space industry is complete nonsense. So tons of information in there. And what I tell people is, wait, also, if you go to this is the web button, biblical flat earth down here, or mud floods on the bottom right. If you guys want to learn about that, that's a great one to click. Other flat earth friendly shows, other information, you know, the beer bug on the top right there, playlists in different languages. And then what I tell people is, you want to learn about the flat earth, every day there's a new video here, the featured video of the day. Watch it every day for 2 weeks. I do short ones during the week, longer ones on the weekend. And by the end of that 2 weeks, you will know that you don't live on a spinning ball. And what I offer is take the challenge. And if you can come up with one flat earth proof and one globe proof, I'll refund the $2.99 and I'll give you a Bitcoin. Okay. Right. And what people say is, you know, I took the challenge, but I didn't want to wait. So I hit that archive button, and right next to it. And when you hit the archive button, up comes a list of all of the videos from the current month. And you could watch those, or you can hit the little hamburger at the top, and there are all the videos from the previous months and years.
Wow, that is incredible.
Wow.
So it does that. It has weather. It has all sorts of stuff. You can change the backgrounds. You know, all these backgrounds, or put your own in. Like, I like that one. That's interesting. Or all different backgrounds, and you could take your own picture and put it in. There's also, if you want to get a cool T-shirt like this, I got my T-shirt shop in there. So if you want to like subtly flat smack your friends and family, you wear a shirt. This one doesn't even say flat earth on it. It's kind of just like, what is that? And the conversation starts.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Because I'm all about the truthers. I follow, a few astrologers I'm huge on, but I also follow a guy who does gematria, the gematria effect. And I just bought his.
That's Zach Hubbard.
Oh, I love Zach. I think it's hilarious.
Zach's an intense character, but he crushes it. And him and Russian Vids.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah,
RV Truth. That's another one. You gotta. RV crushes on that.
Yeah, I actually have a few of his shirts, so I'll have to add you to the truther drawer that I got.
Oh yeah. Last thing before I get out of the app. So watch the sun. Right now, the sun is near that outer yellow line. Do you know what that outer yellow line is called?
Tropic of Capricorn.
Very good. And the inner yellow line?
Tropic of Cancer.
Right. So if I jump a month at a time to June, the sun is over the Tropic of Cancer, and the inner north has its summer because the sun is closer and higher in the sky. Right. Imagine a plane flying 10,000 feet directly over your head, and there's another plane paralleling that plane 20 miles to your south. Okay. The one over your head, that's your summer sun. It's high in the sky. And the one that's out south is lower in the sky. Even though it's the same height, it's way lower in your sky because it's out south and it's farther away. Therefore, you're having the winter. Right now, the outer southern lands are having their summer because the sun is out there and it's on its way back in. It'll cross the equator when we'll have the equinox. and then it'll come all the way in here for June, and we have our summer.
And that's the
Pretty
sine
cool, right?
wave. Yes, and that's so that would be the sine wave that Santos talks about with the traveling of the tropical zodiac, and why it's always
Right.
stationary and the same. Because I got big into arguments about sidereal and also what goes on with tropical astrology, but that makes sense now because it's the layers he talks about, where sidereal is on the outer layer, and so then the way it's moving here would be the tropical, the local sine wave.
Yeah. And I don't believe that the sun and the moon that we see are actually physical. I think that they're literally projections into our reality. And I don't think that anyone sees them in the same place, because when two people triangulate the sun, they get a position. But if you add a third or fourth or fifth person to triangulate it, it should get more precise, but it gets farther off. The numbers just go wacky because everyone's viewing the sun in a different position. And it's because I believe the best word I have is it's a reflection into our world, into our atmosphere. Imagine we're outside and the sun's setting behind us. And I have a mirror. It's a giant mirror, 500 feet wide, whatever. Okay. Giant mirror. And we're all standing 25 feet apart from each other, looking at the mirror, looking at the sun. Okay. Then I could have somebody go up to the mirror and draw a little X on the mirror where I see the sun. Mm-hmm. Then they walk over to you, they're going to draw an X 25 feet over, and then another X 25 feet over where you are. Okay. And we all see the sun in a different position, but you can feel the sun, the sun that's in the sky, and you can feel the heat on the right side of your face because the sun's over there. You with me?
Sure.
It's reflecting off the mirror over there. You'll feel the same amount of heat on your face over here, the same amount.
Wow.
Okay. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way. So yes, it doesn't matter. So it's the way it's projected. It's almost illusionary, like it's illusory, the way that we would see it and we think that what we're looking at. But right, as a projection, it would actually play out. It would make more sense if that's
so. It behaves like a non-physical object. I can prove that. I can't tell you how big it is, how far it is. I mean, let's talk about the helio-nonsensical stars. So when you look in the sky, there's 100 billion stars in our galaxy. And we're told that some of them are just like our sun. Some of them are bigger. Some of them are smaller, but we can see them with our naked eye. Okay. So do you know about the angular resolution limits of your eyes? Our eyes can only see things until they get to 0.02 of a degree in arc length.
So it's like us looking at the horizon and we think we see a curve, but if the Earth's flat,
no, this is actually different. This is the size of something. So like I'm going to hold this up here and it's filling your entire screen. So we'll call that 180 degrees of your vision because it's covering 180 degrees. It's from left to right. Okay. And as I move it away, see how it's getting smaller really fast? Mm-hmm. And so now if you have to draw a circle all the way around you, maybe this is 10 degrees, right? Mm-hmm. And if I bring it over here, maybe it's 5 degrees. Okay. Look, Truman Show. Bam.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
So it gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and until it gets so small that you can't see it. So so we're told that the sun is this giant ball and we're this little marble next to the giant ball, right? So imagine if the sun was right a mile over your head, the sky would look like that. The whole sky would be the sun, right? Right?
Yeah, because
I'm going to start moving it away. And as it moves away, it keeps getting smaller and smaller. Okay. So this is going to go over the course of 100 yards. In 100 yards, this little ball, I mean, it's not the sun, of course, turns into a dot so small that you can't see it. Mm-hmm. Right. So that's just in 100 yards for this. So imagine the sun's right over your head. It fills the entire sky. And I then move it 93 million miles away where they say it is. Mm-hmm. It's now the size of my fingernail held at arm's length, right? Yeah. It's a little dot in the sky. And remember, reduced from the entire sky to the size of my fingernail. If I doubled that distance, how much smaller would it get? Sure. It would get a lot smaller. Really small.
Right. So it shouldn't be that big then.
No. I'm saying 93 million miles. Well, I'm going to give it to them. It's the size of a nickel at arm's length, right? Okay. But it went from the entire sky, reduced all the way to the size of a nickel. If I made it 8 times farther, scientifically, we can prove that you couldn't see that for 2 reasons. One, the brightness is it's going to get less and less, and its angular size will be way beyond what your eye could see. Okay. So they tell us in our solar system, 100 billion stars, the closest star to us is 4.5 light years away. So you know what a light year is, the distance light travels in a year, right? So it's 4.5 light years away is the closest star. The sun that I just proved that you couldn't see at 8 times the distance, that's a light hour. That's a light hour. So if I move the sun 8 times farther away, that's will take an hour for the light to get to us. We couldn't see it. It's too small. The closest star is an hour times 24 times 365 times 4.5. You can't even fathom what that distance is.
No,
it's 25 billion miles.
Right.
Right. And you believe that your eye can see that? It breaks every law of science that they have. The inverse square law of light. The brightness is just ridiculous. The size doesn't work. All of those stars that we see are within, they're all the same, pretty much the same distance away. They're all within the Earth's system, not the
as if more like
Earth system.
Well, and I've heard the analogy of things being more like it's like lights or like it's it's like a chandelier of lights all at the same. It's like I forget how Santos put it, but it's it's more of a covering, and you say it's not so much physical. So does that mean that you're saying it's holographic? And where would the heat come from?
What, from the sun?
Yeah. So if it was not, say, a physical object.
So I think, again, maybe Santos has a better answer, but again, anything above our heads or beyond the shoreline of Antarctica, we're speculating. But I think it's like a focus point of energy. Just like when you take a magnifying glass and focus the sun to a point, that point's really hot. So maybe the dome is focusing the light into our world. Did you know that if you take moonlight and magnify it, it gets colder?
No, I've never heard that. Wow.
Moonlight is different than sunlight. So and this experiment's been done 1 million times, and there's 990,000 ways to screw it up to give you a false positive. But if you go out in moonlight and then go into the shadow, it's warmer in the shadow than it is in the moonlight. Moonlight is cold light.
So you have different form then. So it'd be a different, it's
a different type of light. It makes meat rot. It makes things decay. The moon decays things. The sun purifies things.
Astrologically, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
The moon's very opposite of,
Makes sense with a lot of the ancient teachings too.
Right.
I mean, as far as the whole horse set thing.
So a lot of ballers come out and they say, we know the earth is curved because from in Hawaii, from the top of this mountain, you should be able to see this other mountain on this other island, which is 300 miles away, but we can't see it. Okay. So this is this is people on the mountain in Aluja, France, and they're looking over, and Canigou Island should be over here, Canigou Mountain, but it's not, because it's the top of the mountain is a mile below the curve of the sphere Earth, according to heliocentric math. It's 175 miles.
That's one of my questions with the
So, but as you notice, there's only a couple days a year that this happened, like 2 days a year, when the sun lines up and goes beyond. And look at this. Here is the mountain. It's backlighting it. And the top of this mountain right here should be a mile below a hump of water if the earth was a ball. But it's right there. But you can't see it unless the sunlight bounces off of it, because it backlights it. The sunlight lights up the mountain, then that mountain has to reflect that light back to you, and it can't push all the way through. It's not bright enough, but the sunlight's bright enough to do it. And then when it gets near the mountain backlights it, and you can see it. So this is only like 2 days a year that this happens. And that's not a mirage. That mountain's right there. And the top of this mountain should be a mile below the physical curvature of the earth.
I always thought that made sense. And on top of that, I mean, a lot of people like to get technical. I mean, if we're talking a flat disc, right? Wouldn't it?
Not a flat disc.
Not a flat, more of a, they say it's not a flat
pond.
But more.
We're in a pond. We're in the Antarctic basin.
Okay, there you go. So wouldn't that be
Think of it that way.
uneven at times too? Like if people try to argue this curvature thing, like if it was say that, right? Like it's not going to be perfect in the shape, is it?
Water, all this water is connected. Large bodies of water at rest, lay flat, lay level. That's it. A level. They use a water level. Okay. Water is level, sea level, not sea curve, airplane, not air globe. Okay. You know, extraterrestrial from the extra terra beyond Antarctica, not from outer space. But maybe they come from the outer space.
Yeah, that outer
beyond Antarctica across the plane.
Yeah. That actually relates to a lot of the etymology. If you learn about language, you can learn a lot about secrets within all of these. That makes sense. Even planet has the word plane in it with a T. You know, I mean,
this is a shot from in Africa. It was super dry, arid, and the sun just doesn't go down. It just goes away, and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller.
It's moving back
until it just fades away. Okay. Amazing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So here's one. This is one, and I'm like the only one that's filmed this. I've done it 7 times. On a super clear day, I put my drone up, looking west from the east coast of the United States. So I'm over land. It has to be like 32 degrees. It has to be like the clearest, bluest sky day all day. So there's no clouds. And I'll watch the sun in like 5 minutes. It'll go from here all the way down to here, and then it just stops. If the Earth was spinning, it would just keep going. There's no way it would slow down. It goes here, it stops, and then it just fades away. It sat there for 10 minutes. That's just like sped up 2,500%. It just fades away because it goes into the thickness of the atmosphere. It can't push through. So literally the atmosphere stops it. But my friends were down at the beach and they saw the sun just set from the bottom up as it went away. And that's just because their horizon, which is way over their eyes, merges at eye level. So as the sun goes away, bam, it just sets like that.
Wow. So that makes sense then with the way the tropics worked and all of that. 'Cause I know that's a big question with a lot of people. My cousin specifically had said, hey, if you're talking to that flat earth guy, make sure you ask him about the seasons. And I also had a question about, the precession of the equinoxes too. Like obviously that wouldn't affect this, would it?
Let's talk about the seasons in a second. So you see the sun, it's just going beyond, like it's setting from the bottom up as it passes a cloud. Now just push that cloud 20, 30 miles farther, it merges with the horizon and you can't see you don't even see the difference. And then it just goes beyond that cloud and you think it's dropping below a physical curve. It's just going beyond what I call the atmospheric deck of opacity.
Like density of it. So, all right. So I guess that makes sense. And I know a lot of the, because everything's built off the torus field, everything's a torus. Now this is why I brought up at the beginning on how things could be maybe either a wave or a particle. Now, when we turn things into reality through observation, everything, including atoms, has a torus field. So the globe did work with that. But now would that have a lot to do with how the redshift, blue shift thing, where the magnetic field holds the plane in place? Like anything beyond this, what would be holding?
We're not floating in space.
Okay.
I don't know what's below us, and nobody does. No science book does, because we can't get below 8 miles. So the only place that we could find that information maybe is in scripture. And God said he placed the earth on foundations and it cannot be moved. I don't know whether you want to believe that or not.
He also said the firmament too.
Yeah, and he put a firmament above, right? So let's talk about seasons. So we're taught that this is the sun, and when the northern hemisphere is towards the sun, we get these direct sun rays, and when we're tilted away, the sun rays kind of spread out over a longer area, and that's why we have our winter. Yeah. Okay, is that the understanding of seasons that you have? Did you know in the heliocentric model, in our summer, we're 4 million miles farther from the sun than in our winter. We're 4 million miles closer to the sun in the north. Some people can't even fathom that. No, so here's the earth. We got a ball and I tilted on its axis 34 36 degrees, 34 degrees. I always get that screwed up. I'm dyslexic.
Sure, it's not 33 like the Masons. I know that always.
So it's tilted away. So, we have the axis and it's tilted
Yeah. Like where
Tilt away.
the wobble and the
Yeah,
axis,
so-
the wobble.
So take the axis away. Can you tilt the ball a different way? You can tilt the ball any way you want, right? You can tilt it this way, that it doesn't matter. So think about this. On June, on the summer solstice in the north, if you go to the shore and you wait for the sun to appear on the horizon, as soon as it appears on the horizon, that is the most severe tilt that we could possibly be away from the sun. That's like an 89-degree tilt. Okay. So that sunlight is being spread the longest way. It's not being spread a little bit, it's being spread all the way across, right? So that is the most tilted you could possibly be when the sun is on the horizon. But in the summer, when the sun's on the horizon, you can feel the heat blasting on your face immediately. It's very warm. But then on December 21st, at the middle of the day when the sun is at its highest point, it's way up there, you can look at the sun and you barely feel the heat at all. And that's a much more direct angle. It's exponentially more direct than the little tilt they're talking about for the seasons. So in the winter, you have a direct angle. We're actually closer to the sun, they tell us, and you can't feel the heat. But in the summer, when it's at the most severe angle, coming across the most amount of atmosphere, you feel the heat blasting on your face.
Right. So what you're saying is
debunked.
Regardless of the tilt playing any part, it's the matter of they're saying the distance makes it colder, but the fact
they're saying even though we're closer, we have our winter.
Sure, right.
Because it's the tilt that matters. If that was the case, every sunrise all year long would be arctically freezing, but it's not.
Mm.
It has to do with as I showed you on the app, with the seasons, when the sun is in close, like the airplane overhead, it's higher and closer versus when it's out south. When it's out south, they're having their summer, we're having our winter because it's lower in the sky. We see the sun over there instead of up there.
Right. And it does tie in with the whole the spiral math and Fibonacci, where I think I've seen a diagram where it spirals out kind of when it's on the outer ring at the Tropic of Capricorn, and then it starts to spiral up again, right? And then it does the
Santos is the man for that.
Obviously, you could tell I've at least studied that, man.
So what else you want to hit? You want to hit NASA for a minute?
Yeah, we can hit the whole. Let's start at the most common. I think the pictures of the Earth.
Yeah, pictures of Earth. Pictures. NASA doesn't have any photographs. They admit that. They call them pictures. Which Earth would you like to live on? The United States this big, or the United States over twice the size?
Wow, yeah. I've never seen the different, and those are official, right?
These are official, and people say, well, this one is at a different angle. Well, if I took this one and tilted it back, it gets smaller. It doesn't get bigger. This one's bigger and it's tilted away. Okay. Official. That's an official picture. And the question is, where are the other continents, right? How come we only see America there? Where are the other continents? Look at this. Here it is. Here's America. I took this map, which is the relative sizes of all the other continents. This is what we're seeing on this ball. So you have to believe that all of this land, all of this is on the other side of that ball.
And we're not the biggest country either. So, and they make, it makes it almost look like
all of it's on the other side of that ball.
Yeah.
This is a painting. Right? And then, you know, they're Robert Simmons, their visual artist, said he did it in Photoshop. You know, he stepped and repeated the clouds.
I think I saw this on the Rogan podcast with Eddie, where he had talked about they went and looked actually, and the guy did admit that it was made in Photoshop. Yeah,
but so their excuse is, well, it's strips of data, and they had to throw some clouds in there to make it look nice, but it's really a photo. It's just strips of data. Nonsense. You know, composite's a composite. They have there's no photos of Earth. I mean, we have photos of Jupiter or Pluto. That's what I was going to ask. And somehow there's a desert that kind of looks like Pluto the dog, if you ask me, but maybe that's my imagination.
No, yeah, wow.
Okay. And Pluto the dog was created the same year as Pluto the planet was discovered. That's probably because they named the dog after the planet, right? That's what you'll say. So let's look at Jupiter. Oh, I've seen NASA has grainy black and white footage of Jupiter, and Jupiter is a gaseous planet. It's got big storms on it, and some of the rings go clockwise, some of them go counterclockwise, right? So in 2016, they go, hey, there's a magnetic pole on Jupiter because we took a picture of the northern lights, right? Now, I bet you're going, that kind of looks crappily done. I could have done that, and I don't even need Photoshop. I could have done that in MS Paint.
That was my first thought. That looks
yeah, but let's just assume it's real.
Okay.
But if you overlay these planets and adjust the opacity, you'll see that every little cloud is exactly the same. See this little cloud right here? It's right there. Okay. This storm is a hurricane bigger than the Earth, they tell us.
Yeah.
Okay. But all these clouds didn't change in over 2 years. All of these, every single ripple is the same. If you go watch the video, this thing's spin around, different all the time. This is the same photo.
Yeah.
They just made this one a little bit lighter.
Yeah, I was thinking too, because every time you see Jupiter, and it's always whatever NASA pictures, it's always the same shot. It's always like it's never changed. The hurricane is still in the same spot.
That's what stands out the most, is the hurricane's always in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
That little dot is always in the picture.
But these are clouds next to it, and they don't change. So this tells you that they're lying, they're faking, and you can unwind that all the way to we never went to the moon.
No.
Yes.
So here, be the devil's advocate here. You're the Glober. This is from the space shuttle. Where are the continents?
Yeah.
Where are the continents?
You would say, oh well, this is just more closer to the Earth, and they're
or somebody took that from their front yard and just turned it upside down.
That's crazy.
Oh wow, fake out completely. Yeah, you had me there.
Yeah, and the budget on that was $0. Now here's a question: is this a balloon or 40,000 pounds of steel falling out of the sky? Is that a blimp? Now watch this guy. This is the Red Bull jump.
Yeah.
He's going to jump. Watch how fast he falls. 200 pounds. This is 40,000 pounds of steel or a balloon.
Yeah, I was going to guess a balloon just by the motion of it. It doesn't look.
Yeah, okay.
Doesn't look.
They tell us that that's the external tank of the space shuttle falling back to Earth.
Yeah.
Okay. That's a balloon. The space shuttle was a helium rocket assisted blimp. Remember when the space shuttle took off and it always rolled over on its back?
Yes,
right?
and it never goes straight up. It kind of flies.
It goes up, but then it rolls on its back, so the shuttle part is like underneath as it goes.
Sure.
That's because the external tank is a blimp. and the thing that the people were supposedly in, nobody's in there. It's just a little heavier, so it goes on its back, and then it flies up and it goes out over the Atlantic Ocean, and then they pop it, and that's the end of it. And you watch a cartoon.
And a few questions about that. So with NASA, then, and if we're talking about the moon and all that being obviously projections or possibly fake and all that. So is there a ceiling then, and they're just shooting things up and they know it's there? And they just kind of they do these things because it further instills this belief that that there's an outer realm.
Question: is this actual footage from the lunar rover connecting with the orbiter, or is this a rejected clip from South Park because the animation was too shitty?
Well, I mean, I'll just agree that the animation doesn't have me fooled. That's all. Honestly, it looks like it's a toy.
Like, you could do better.
It just seems too.
You could do better with a $0 budget.
Right. Yeah, no, it looks like Steven Spielberg had a
This is official footage from NASA from the moon landing in the 60s. Mm-hmm. Isn't that crazy?
It looks like a washing machine almost.
That's the other thing though because you see there's been videos of them going to certain whatever the International Space Station, and they show you videoing them and Earth. I've always said to Ray too, and I'm like, how is it that if if that's real, like when you look behind them and you see like a bit of the earth and stuff, how come you're not seeing any stars in the dark space? And what is space? You don't see anything.
Right. How about this? Is this guy floating behind? He like these guys were doing their stuff, flipping their stuff around, the microphone and their hat, and this guy floats by in the background. Is he floating, or is he hanging from a harness? And the green screen didn't get rid of his harness.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like one of those things in movies where they, you know, they're in old school 90s movies when there was no CGI and they needed a guy to fly. It's like a heart.
Now, when you're zoomed out, he's way in the distance. He just floats by and everyone just buys it. But I zoomed in and it's clearly he's in a harness. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Clear as day.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And now this guy's flipping his hat around. That is known as augmented reality. And he went to pass it to his friend. Watch. He went to pass, and his friend who has contact lenses are looking at a screen. He thought he had it, but he didn't. And he went to put it away, but he didn't grab it.
Oh.
Right? And then if you watch the look on his face, he's flipping out because he's like trying to look at the screen. He realizes he screwed up and he doesn't know what to do.
Yeah, it looks like he has a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. So check this out. So augmented reality, this woman's talking to kids, and look up here. Is there a stuffed animal there? Oh no, now there is. And now she's playing with it and she's manipulating it. This is, again, she's looking at a screen, she's moving things around, and it's done with this computer program where they're playing with, you know, virtual objects and manipulating them. And that's how they, you know, they're always flipping things around. You see?
Mostly projections.
Wow.
Well, you know, so when they do these long conferences, you know, where they're they're doing something, whatever, it's all done in a green screen studio. And sometimes the green screen goes bad. Like at the very end of the show, everything that was floating and them glitches out. And then they quickly cut away. But that happened last year.
I was going to ask if this was recent or not.
Yeah.
That's only last year. I mean, come on, they could do better. And just hire one of those CGI guys or something.
That's the other thing too.
They're sloppy.
With our technology, though, you see a lot of these videos that end up playing out and stuff. Like even when they're showing like the astronauts actually in space, it's always such shitty quality.
Right. So like, other times they're on what's called the zero G plane, and they, you know, it does a parabolic arc. Do you know about that?
No.
So they have a 747, big giant plane, completely empty tube, and it goes really fast, and it does a parabolic arc. And when it does that, it's falling at the same rate that you're falling. So you have like 45 to 60 seconds of weightlessness.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this guy was floating, and since it's a tube, you can't take a left-hand turn like you could on the space station. So when he goes around the corner, they had to fade him out. Watch. You can see through him. Watch. You can see through his arm. You see that? It'll zoom in. Watch. Transparent right there.
Yeah.
So it's just editing, and people's eyes don't catch it. So they don't do this anymore, but on the morning news, they were like, this is in the 70s or 80s. I think it was a space shuttle. I think it was a space shuttle or space station, whatever. And they said they're going to have a rare interview live with the space station, but they only have like 60 seconds of satellite time. Okay. So that's interesting. Same as the zero G plane. And all of a sudden, so they come on, and so this is a zero G plane, right? They're flipping her around. This is in the middle of its parabolic arc. Here's one that they made look like the space station. So these guys were talking on the news, and during their broadcast, all of a sudden they slammed into the wall. Okay. And the news cut away. And what happened was they came out of their parabolic arc too soon, and they went away. So it was a, you know, sudden shift of the space station. Like, oh, NASA just told us it was a sudden shift of the space station. This is what happened to them. I turned it sideways, and this is the end of a parabolic arc. Kind of looks the same, right? Watch this guy here. He's got two objects floating in the sky, and suddenly he's slammed into the wall, but he has the wits to catch them both with one hand. like he's done it a million times before.
Expected then.
Well, he practiced this a million times. So he knows the parabolic arc's over. He's like, oh, I better just catch these things. Okay. But it happened, a few seconds too early during the interview. And it happened on live TV.
So so then if this is the case and they're using this holographic technology and they're using so there's so many things they could be applying this to. I mean, I won't go as far as 9/11, but I actually even have seen videos of the plane being somewhat holographic. I don't believe that fully, but more so of things kind of, that, well, I won't argue that.
Stop. Ready? Write this down. Stoplookthink.com. Okay. Click the 9/11 page there. Go to the no planes area, and then you'll know.
So I thought so. I do.
There's no planes. There's no planes that crashed anywhere on 9/11.
I was trying to play it safe with you there, but so
no.
I have heard that. So it would go in line with then this same technology and same mindset that they're
CGI.
Again, when they're doing the 0G plane, they're really floating. So they can do whatever they can, like in what 0G would be, but they only have 45 seconds to do it. And there's lots of times they have videos, pre-made videos, where the girl's showing how she washes her hair in space. And it was all edited together in 20 flights. And they put it together, but there's cut after cut after cut. And you can see her hair keeps moving. And it's amazing how they do it. And it's really crappy. But in the app, under are all space agencies on it, there's so many videos showing all of the mistakes that they make.
And you figure, they're this big agency, they're supposed to be running the world. It's like, how do they do such a sloppy job then? What would you think on if you have all these people who do movies? And
I have an answer for that.
Yeah, hit me with it.
Either they're trying to be obvious, like they're telling us, like, hey, look, this is how bad we are, or they're just not that smart. And, like they can't all of a sudden go to the moon and show us really HD footage. They have to keep it crappy because they started out crappy.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
So I kind of think that they're giving us clues just to give us a fighting chance. Right? Do you know what this is?
It looks like a water droplet.
It's the star Arcturus.
Oh, wow. Looks like a vibrating, like a cymatic.
Right. And then this is star Capella. Now, this one might be a little out of focus. Hard to say, but
it definitely looks a little different.
Way different. Totally different.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And this is Sirius. Slowed down. Right. These are all within the Earth system, not the soul lure system where they're trying to steal your soul away from your divine creation. Here's the way I look at it. Souls are very sought after beings. They're little tiny, think of them as tiny little people. Okay. And you can't kill them. And they're I don't know, they're just sought after by God and the devil. Everybody wants souls. Okay. But God gives us free will. And they can't break free will, so they trick people into giving away their souls. Our whole journey, our whole mission here is just to maintain control of your soul. That's it. It's that easy. And you do that by not killing anybody, not stealing from anybody, helping your neighbors, being a good person, and that's it.
Yeah. So do you think this has a lot to do with the coming of the new age and how this information's kind of surfaced where, the age of Aquarius, a lot of people talk about, and how we're raising our frequency and our consciousness. Now, you think this is why maybe now that this is coming out where it's almost like because of the internet, they can't hide it anymore. So a lot of people are waking up, and due to this raising the consciousness is because it's so readily available now.
I think that the internet got away from them a little bit, Yeah. I think that it got out ahead of them, and they're scrambling to shove the genie back in the bottle, but it's too late.
Yeah.
So
now it just takes propaganda and also making people out to be nuts too.
Right. So one last story, and then I got to go. In January of 2020, I was interviewing a 102-year-old woman about the World's Fairs, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. And she had an excellent memory about when she was 5 years old. And I said, what did they teach you in school when you were 5 about the earth? And she looks at me, she goes, they taught me the earth was flat. This is in Connecticut in the United States in the 1920s. So we looked and we found other people in other countries, like in the 1930s in Croatia, everyone was taught the earth was flat. And we found newspaper articles on microfilm about teachers that were being persecuted for teaching heliocentrism or trying to teach it. So have we known the earth has been a ball for 500 years? Nope, that's a lie. It's literally the takeover happened in the early 1900s. And then we had all these fake wars, real wars, but for fake reasons. And the Depression, and they're literally wiping out the society, the history that is right under our, right in front of us. So it's all about control of our souls here in this realm. And, people are willingly giving it to them. This whole thing that's coming up with the jab in the arm, I don't want to say the word because I don't want to get you censored, that there's technology in there that making people that it takes away your connection to God. Yeah. Where people say, I can't feel God anymore. There's people that have reported this. There's so many things that this thing can be doing. It's changing your DNA. Mm-hmm. And then the next time you get a coronavirus, which is the common cold, the following year, the year after, your body will start attacking all of its own cells. And then you'll get really sick and they'll go, oh, new variant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what they've been doing already with all the shots. You know what I'm saying? I think that if we're talking about a control system and something that's been going on over a long period of time, most people think, how could they do this? Well, this is planned many, many years beyond, and a lot of people really don't think back that over 100 years ago, life was so different, and once technology and everything came to the surface, it gave certain people power, and that changes everything.
Right.
It takes time and commitment too to build up to where we are now. People think like, oh, well, it's like, no, it's a lot of it's very, very pre-planned to something that's been in motion for decades, hundreds of years too.
Yeah, I think
it's all
here too. I think a lot of the lines in America.
Yeah, it's all about control of your mind and to gain control of your soul with the soul lure system, the way I like to say it. Mm-hmm. So just keep researching and help other people see reality. Now that's not easy because there's nobody likes having their ball taken away, especially when they've been indoctrinated their whole life. But one of the best ways to do it is share the app with them. Buy them the app. No better feeling than converting a friend or family member into a flat earther, so you have someone you can talk to.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was lonely for us for a while when it came to all the occult and all the knowledge, even being considered a conspiracy theorist. And, it's like, well, I like to think, people, it goes back to my Santa Claus reference. That made me think, like, what else could potentially be than something it's not, So, and honestly, I could thank George Carlin, because that man taught me how to think in a sense of his ability to analyze something, like between him and Alan Watts, man. Him and Alan Watts.
George Carlin told us all about what's happening now. He said that he predicted this. Yeah. Him and Gaddafi.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And people don't, it's funny, he hit it within his comedy. But a lot of those, in the arts, that's why art's so special. You could hide hidden messages within the art, and he just happened to use comedy. And if it wasn't for him at like age 11, I started listening because my dad was big on him. He taught me just how to be aware. Yeah. He gave me awareness.
That's the role of the jester. They would hide their subliminal things and messages within their acts and their routines and their comedy, and they would get away with it rather than other people that spoke out against the king. The other people that spoke out against the king would be put to death. So.
That's right.
Well, definitely.
All right, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate you joining us. And I would definitely love to have further conversations in the future. We'll definitely make sure to link your app and anything else. If you want, just send it over our way. All right.
All right, you'll get an email right after the show with a couple links in it. Share what you want, and then send me a link when the show's up. All right.
Awesome,
David. We appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for doing this, and I hope we could do it again. Honestly,
mine's open.
All right, guys, we'll talk. Thanks.
All right. Take care.
Thanks, Dave.
Have a
See
good
ya.
one.